No war in human history was ever truly glorious. Behind every military victory lay endless broken lives, pointless hatred, and innocent creatures sacrificed for human madness. In World War I, where millions of soldiers drowned in mud and gunfire, one ordinary horse changed everything. He crossed enemy lines, survived brutal battles, witnessed the worst of humanity, and yet still chose kindness and loyalty until the very end. This is the legendary, tear-jerking true story of Warhorse, a story that proves compassion always outlives war, and true bonds never break, even under the fire of a world at war. Of all war films ever made, Warhorse stood out as the gentlest yet most haunting one that lingered in viewers' minds long after the credits rolled. Most war directors filled their frames with smoke, blood, sacrifice, and tragedy, forcing audiences to stare directly at the hideous face of warfare. Steven Spielberg chose a completely different path. He pulled back from graphic violence and brutal combat close-ups and used an innocent, speechless horse as the sole witness to the First World War. This horse held no side, understood no military factions, knew nothing about human political conflicts, and could not comprehend hatred, battle, or dying for a country. All it ever knew was loyalty, companionship, gratitude, and the will to survive. Yet it was this pure, blameless creature that watched one of humanity's most senseless, cruel, and helpless wartime tragedies unfold. Many people walked away from the film feeling warm and satisfied by its happy ending. But anyone who truly understood the story realized that beneath its soft tone lay a full-scale wartime tragedy from start to finish. The story began without artillery fire or smoke. It opened on the quiet countryside of Devon, England, where green grass stretched for miles and soft breezes swept across open farmland. Young Albert's life was meant to stay simple, plain, and peaceful, just like the land around him. Everything changed at a livestock auction, where the fate of a horse, a boy, and countless other lives would be rewritten forever. Ted, a struggling farmer buried under heavy debt, fought to keep his family's farm afloat. He originally planned to buy a steady, hard-working plow horse to tend his rocky fields. But the moment he laid eyes on a graceful young foal with bright eyes and a beautiful coat, he acted on impulse. Ignoring every warning around him, he spent every coin his family had saved over years of backbreaking labor and paid an outrageous price for a horse that was built to run, not pull heavy farm equipment. The whole village mocked his decision. Neighbors watched coldly, and townsfolk whispered among themselves. Everyone agreed this swift thoroughbred would only become a burden. It could not plow the land, it would waste precious feed, and it would push his already poor family into ruin. Even Ted's wife felt crushed by disappointment and helplessness. Only teenage Albert fell completely in love with the foal the second he saw it. He ignored every doubt from the community and welcomed the unpopular young horse into his life, naming him Joey. From that day on, Albert poured all his tenderness and patience into caring for Joey. At dawn, he ran across wide meadows alongside his horse. At dusk, he fed Joey carefully and combed through his shaggy mane. While others insisted Joey was useless, Albert trained him day after day and trusted him completely. He created a one-of-a-kind whistle signal just for Joey, a quiet secret shared only between the boy and his horse. One of the most powerful scenes arrived when Joey broke through every expectation to plow the stony wasteland. Villagers gathered, ready to laugh at failure, certain the hard rock-filled soil could never be turned. But Joey felt Albert's hope and pushed forward with all his strength, dragging the heavy plow step by step over unyielding earth. Every sneer turned to shocked cheers. Joey proved his worth and saved the family farm from collapse, at least for a little while. That peaceful stretch of time acted as a gentle utopia inside the harsh story. There were no guns, no screaming shells, no painful goodbyes, only a boy and his horse wandering fields under soft wind and warm sunlight. Back then, Albert believed this quiet life would last forever. He thought he would stay on the farm with Joey for years to come, but ordinary people's peace was fragile against the tide of global war. A devastating storm swept across the countryside overnight and destroyed the entire year's harvest. With no crops to sell, the family could not pay their mounting debts, and they faced eviction from the land their ancestors had owned for generations. Cornered with no way out, Ted made a heartbreaking choice. To save his family, he sold Joey to British cavalry units heading for the front lines of World War I. Their goodbye held no grand ceremony, yet it carried unbearable sorrow. Albert wrapped his arms tightly around Joey's neck, and his tears soaked into the horse's mane. He knew the battlefield was a dangerous place where death waited around every corner, and this separation might last a lifetime. Still, he made a sacred promise to his dearest friend. No matter how far the war carried Joey, no matter how many years passed, no matter how many battlefields separated them, he would find him again. Too young to join the army, Albert could do nothing but watch Joey march away toward the unknown horrors of France. From that moment forward, Joey's fate became tied to the brutal war, and his long, dangerous journey across the battlefield began. Joey's first owner in the military was Captain Nichols, a kind and compassionate officer. He cherished the loyal horse and understood Joey carried a young boy's hope across the sea. During rare quiet breaks between battles, Nichols drew a careful portrait of Joey and mailed the sketch back to Devon. That small drawing gave Albert something to hold on to during his long, lonely years of waiting. Yet war never rewarded kindness or gentleness. A brutal cavalry charge began without warning. Armed riders raced toward German lines, full of courage, only to meet a wall of rapid machine gun fire. Cold bullets cut down dozens of soldiers in seconds, and the battlefield turned into chaos. Captain Nichols lost his life on that field. With his rider dead and his unit destroyed, Joey became spoils of war for German troops. He switched sides and owners and endured more suffering inside a cold military camp. There he met his closest companion, Topthorn, a tall, powerful black stallion. The two horses shared the same cruel fate. Both were pulled into a conflict that did not belong to them. Both were forced to move from place to place with no control over their lives. Inside the grim camp, they leaned on each other for comfort and became one another's only source of warmth and despair. Joey watched how war broke human spirits. A young German soldier named Gunther grew tired of endless fighting and saw how ridiculous the whole conflict truly was. His only wish was to keep his little brother safe and far away from killing. To protect the boy, Gunther risked everything. He escaped the camp with his brother Joey and Topthorn, hiding inside a quiet windmill deep in the countryside. But individual resistance meant almost nothing against the massive war machine. Patrol soldiers found the brothers, labeled them deserters, and executed them without mercy. No one stopped to hear their pain or understand their reasons. The war followed orders, ignored morality, and took lives without hesitation. After the soldiers left, the windmill stood empty and lonely. The two horses were abandoned once more, left alone in open fields, lost and afraid. Fate brought a brief moment of mercy. A sickly young French girl named Emily discovered Joey and Topthorn. Emily had lost her parents to the war and lived with her elderly grandfather. She had no friends and very little joy in her isolated childhood. The two horses lit up her dark, lonely world. She fed them in secret, sheltered them, and treated them like her dearest friends. In the quiet village far away from constant shelling, Joey lived through another short period of peace. There were no fights, no gunfire, no forced labor, only wind, open fields, running, and companionship. Emily's grandfather pitied his lonely granddaughter. For her birthday, he pulled out a saddle he had saved for many years and let her ride Joey freely across the meadows to enjoy the simple happiness of childhood. This was the softest, most comforting part of the whole story. But war never let peace last long. It offered hope just long enough to snatch it away and leave deeper despair behind. German troops marched into the village again. They seized every usable horse to haul heavy artillery for frontline fighting. No amount of begging from the old man or tears from the little girl could change their orders. Joey and Topthorn were taken away once more and forced back into the nightmare of the battlefield. Emily could only watch her beloved horses disappear, her heart heavy with loss and regret. What followed was the darkest, most suffocating, and saddest section of the film. The two horses pulled tons of heavy artillery through muddy ground covered in craters and old human remains every single day. Freezing wind bit at their bodies, shells boomed non-stop around them, and exhaustion and injury wore them down week after week. They received almost no rest or shelter and kept moving through pain, fear, and hunger. Even the strong, resilient Topthorn could not survive endless overwork. Years of strain, lack of food, and untreated wounds drained every last bit of his strength. He collapsed into the cold mud and never stood up again. He survived artillery fire and countless dangers, only to wear away under the endless demands of war. When Joey watched his best friend die in front of him, fear and grief overwhelmed him completely. He could not bear any more suffering. He broke free and ran as fast as he could, desperate to escape the killing field. He raced blindly into no man's land, the deadly empty zone between opposing trenches. This cratered, corpse-strewn stretch of ground was the most dangerous place on the whole front. Very few people who stepped foot there came back alive. Joey's desperate run trapped him in the worst spot possible. Thick, sharp barbed wire wrapped tightly around his body and held him captive. He struggled, whinnied, grew tired, and sank into despair. Alone and badly hurt in the middle of a death zone, he waited for whatever fate had in store. Yet on this land defined by murder, hatred, and loss, one of the most gentle, awe-inspiring miracles in cinema took place. British soldiers in the trenches spotted Joey trapped out in the open. When they saw the helpless dying horse, compassion overrode wartime hatred. One soldier raised a white flag, stepped carefully out of the dangerous trench, and called across to the German lines. He asked for a temporary truce so both sides could work together and save an innocent life. To everyone's relief, the German soldiers who had fought against them agreed. For a short while, enemy lines, national loyalty, and wartime grudges vanished. Men who had tried to kill each other laid down their weapons and walked side by side into the deadly wasteland. Slowly and carefully, they cut the wire wrapped around Joey's body and cared for the wounded horse with tenderness. Amid cold, brutal war, human kindness broke through smoke and darkness. Many viewers felt moved by the scene, but they missed its sharp irony. Human beings were fully capable of being gentle, merciful, and understanding toward one another. Mindless war forced those same kind people to hate, fight, and destroy each other instead. After they rescued Joey, the two soldiers flipped a coin to decide who would take the horse. There was no fighting or arguing, only quiet respect. As they parted, the former enemies waved to each other. Their eyes held the same weariness and sorrow. They were never true enemies, only ordinary men caught up in a conflict they did not choose. Once that brief moment of kindness ended, they returned to their trenches to keep fighting and dying. That was the absurd, heartbreaking truth of war. Joey was taken back to a British military camp for treatment, but his wounds were severe. The army vet believed recovery was impossible and planned to end his suffering with a gunshot. Right when everyone prepared to give up on him, fate delivered a miracle. The young boy Albert had grown into a man. He traveled across oceans to join the army and keep the promise he made years before, searching for his lost horse. Poison gas on the battlefield burned his eyes and left him nearly blind. He could not see anything clearly, but he never forgot the special whistle only he and Joey understood. Inside the noisy, crowded military camp, he blew that familiar signal. The sound cut through crowds, chaos and pain, and reached Joey's ears. Weak and worn out, Joey lifted his head, pricked his ears forward, and neighed with every last bit of energy he had left. The blind boy could not see the horse standing before him, and the scarred horse could not make out the man's face. But the bond built across war, separation, and years apart let them recognize each other instantly. To everyone else, Joey was just another warhorse. Only Albert could name every unique mark and scar across his coat. A soldier wiped mud and dried blood from Joey's body, and every detail matched Albert's description perfectly. The whole camp fell silent, stunned by what they witnessed. After surviving artillery capture, labor, and near-certain death, Joey was finally reunited with the boy who had waited for him for years. This meeting of loyalty and longing reached its long-awaited happy ending amid leftover smoke from battle. Eventually, the guns fell silent. World War I came to an end. Peace arrived, but the land lay broken. Countless young men never returned home. Families were torn apart, and many lifelong connections vanished forever. Under military rules, surviving war horses would be sold at public auctions to civilian buyers. Albert and Joey had barely reunited before they faced separation once again. Albert spent all his military savings, but he could not compete against wealthier bidders. He watched helplessly as Joey was about to be bought by a stranger. At the critical moment, an elderly Frenchman kept raising his bid and won Joey. He was Emily's grandfather. The little girl who had loved and cared for Joey had already passed away from illness, taken before she could grow old. The old man traveled a long way to the auction to honor his granddaughter's final memory. At first, he did not want to let Joey go, but after Albert showed him Captain Nichols' old sketch and told the full story of the promise made years ago, the grandfather understood and chose to let Joey return home. He knew Joey's real home was not a quiet country estate. It belonged to the boy who had raised him, loved him, waited for him, and crossed a war to find him. Golden sunset light spilled over the wide Devon countryside. Scarred but safe, Joey followed Albert back to the farm they had left behind years earlier. His parents waited at the house and welcomed their son home, along with the miraculous horse that found its way back to him. The boy returned, the horse came home, and all their hardship, danger, and long waiting finally reached a peaceful end. Warhorse never relied on graphic bloodshed or forced tragedy. With soft, thoughtful cinematography, it showed how hollow, bitter, and ridiculous war truly was. The horse did not understand war, yet he witnessed every ugly, cruel, absurd part of it. The horse did not understand hatred, yet he watched human beings fight and turn against one another for no good reason. He was cared for by farmers, cherished by a captain, comforted by a little girl, and broken by war. He saw the best and worst of humanity, yet he stayed pure, loyal, and gentle to the very end. In a time when many people gave in to rage and division, Joey held on to kindness. In a world where most people lost control of their own fate, he stayed faithful to the bonds he formed. Spielberg used one horse's life to share a timeless lesson. War could destroy homes, split land apart, take lives, and plant hatred in people's hearts. But it could never break genuine trust, gentle compassion, or loyal companionship between living beings. Smoke would fade, guns would stop firing, and hatred would fade away with time. Love and loyalty traveled across mountains, survived death, lasted through years, and lived on forever, guiding every soul back home.